and just like we're all, no matter what we do, we're always serving something. A serves B, B serves C, C serves D. So everything is always serving something. The husband serves the wife, whoops, the wife. My phone thought I said Siri. I'll turn this puppy off. Actually, so A serves, I got to how to turn it off. A serves B, B serves D. As I was saying, the husband serves the wife serves the husband. The worker serves the employer. It just goes, whoops, goes on and on like that. And so the nature of the soul, so Srila Prabhupada equates that to be like the nature of the soul is service. And so our constitutional position is that of servitor. And so within that relationship of serving, we have a relationship with Krishna, a relationship with God. Now that can be broken down into different types of relationships, but the five basic ones are neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental, and conjugal. And so in order to achieve that relationship, actually that's a given. Our relationship with Krishna is already there. It's just covered over by this material energy. And so the process of devotional service or any bona fide religious process can help one to uncover that to a certain level. And so, I mean, I don't know what it means to to want God but not religion. I think I know what Deborah is saying. I mean, I know her a little bit, and we don't want just churchianity. We don't want just a set of rules and regulations. We don't want these kind of things. But there are rules and regulations which are there to help us. Just like on the if you I've given this example so many times it's almost worn out. When you drive on the road, there's rules and regulations, but the rules and regulations are there to make driving possible. In other words, if anybody could drive on any side of the road, kind of like India, but anyway, we won't go there. But anyway, if you drive on any side of the road, you stop on the green and you go on the red, or you drive on the sidewalk or something. So all these rules and regulations are there for the peaceful driving experience and the safe driving experience for everyone. So in the same way, there are rules and regulations in the scriptures that one should follow in order to come to this stage of pure devotional service. And so one may consider that an imposition, just like but someone may think that driving on the left in America, or right on America, or the left in England and India is an imposition, or have to stop on the red and go on the green is an imposition. But the imposition actually has a value. So these regulative principles are, in one place of the Gita, it's not really connected 100%, but it says that the regulative principles of freedom. And so in that sense, they do create a sense of freedom. And so I don't think anybody just wants, well, there are people, because I was reading that in the Bhagavatam yesterday, where it says that this it eliminates all materialistic type of religious processes, because a lot of people go to perform religious activities for some benefit. And that's where Bhakti Yoga distinguishes from other practices of religion, in that we are only wanting to give to Krishna. We're not expecting anything in return. Most people go to church or the mosque or the temple or whatever it may be, synagogue, whatever it may be, to ask for favors from God. But the idea is to go to these establishments or someplace to render service to the Supreme Lord. And so I would agree that I don't want just religion. I want Krishna, but in order to get Krishna, there are certain guidelines that must be followed to get there, to purify the heart. I see half of somebody over there with me. I don't know who that is.
Okay, I think that is, yeah. Actually, this leads me to
okay. Hare Krishna.
There she is.
Okay. Now I see who's out there. Okay.
So this leads me to a question that I had, actually, because as you know, most people here know that I do a lot of outreach with like the yoga community, and I even find myself with this. I mean, like, what's a good even term, like we kind of throw around this word non-devotee a lot, like really casually. At least we've moved on from calling everybody karmis, but then we call them non-devotees, which is still isn't really like totally correct. And so that kind of sets a mindset of even on a lesser level, like us and them. So what's a good word or just kind of way to think about people that like the yoga people, they're chanting maybe to Ganesh or something, and they're kind of, they're following, they're getting to Krishna like in their own way, and we see that. But just kind of what kind of mindset can we approach these people with?
Is his mic not working? I don't hear anything.
I don't hear his mic anymore.
We can't hear you, Maharaj.
We can't hear you.
Hare Krishna.
There we go.
Okay, it somehow or another I unmuted it and then I unmuted it again and it worked. So so we were talking about, what was it? Oh yeah. So to see everyone as having value, that I was quoting that you can take a spouse from a qualified spouse from unqualified family, you can take gold from an unclean place, or you can take a good instruction even from a fool. And so the idea is that whomever we meet, we actually see that they have some value, and to value wherever they're at. Of course, it's hard not to see. It's just like in the Gita explains that when the eyes become clear, in other words, when our vision becomes what would you say, full of knowledge, then it's hard to see things that aren't in ignorance and identify them that way. Actually, when we use the word non-devotee, I mean, everyone's a devotee. They're just, a lot of people just don't know it yet. That's just the problem. That's their issue. But we need to see them as somehow or another connected to Krishna. That's also given in the Gita Samadarshan, that seeing everyone in the equal level is part and parcel of Krishna. Interesting that you brought the word karmi, because that was the common word in the 70s and 80s or whatever. And I was talking with Gopi Pranadhana. I don't know if any of you know, you probably don't know Gopi Pranadhana. Very nice, very wonderful devotee, passed away some years back, a Sanskrit scholar. And we had the BBT division in Miami. And it came up to Gainesville, to Alachua a couple of times, back and forth, back in those days. But he gave a class one time and he was saying to call somebody a karmi, it sounds like a bad word, right? But he says if you call somebody a karmi, that actually is an upgrade for what most people in the material world are doing, because people who are technically karmis are people who are following the karma kanda section of the Vedas, and they're trying to uplift themselves at least to the heavenly situation, by which they have to follow certain rules and regulations. Now, my understanding is there are 100,000, well, in India, say 100,000 lakhs, or 100,000 times 100,000 different verses. What's 100,000? It's like a billion verses. Yeah, that'd be a billion, right? Like a billion verses in the Vedas. And 96% of them are like karma kanda section of the Vedas. You do this, you get this. You do this, you get that. If you've done this, then do this to undo that. And it's just like all this huge, what would you say, like massive, like rules and regulations to just get you up into some kind of heavenly planet where you can enjoy life for a longer duration, and there's much better what would you say, luxury or sense gratification up there. And they follow so many rules and regulations. But then what happens is it comes later on, it comes up to the Upanishads where the people that are teaching, the Brahmins, which are teaching the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, the Karma Kandis see them doing something different. And then they think, oh, there must be something better than Karma Kanda. There has to be something better than being a karmi. And so then what they do is they inquire about the Upanishads. Then the Upanishads bring out the impersonal level of the Supreme Lord, and then eventually they come up to the point of the Bhagavad Purana. They get into the Vedanta Sutras and stuff like that, which is like the very cream of the cream of all the billion slokas. And so then they finally come up to a higher standard. So to call somebody a karmi is actually a good, in one sense, it's kind of an upgrade for them, because nowadays people aren't trying to get, spiritually gain it, even materially on a higher level than, say, this earth planet. So I would say, just to shorten, because I got this thing slowed down in front of me, just to make it a short answer, is just do a mental adjustment. It's not that you have to ignore the ignorance because there's a danger to that, because if one doesn't see it and identify it, it's not that you have to bring out every single, like, what would you say, rule and regulation. It's kind of like my first day in the Hare Krishna temple, I had to take a shower after I used the bathroom. I had to put dhoti on. I had to put tilak on. I got called a slaughterhouse because I didn't have tilak on. So many different things as I woke up like an hour and a half after I went to sleep. That's not the best process. Somehow or other I survived that. But to be aware of them, in other words, we should be aware of the trappings of the material energy, and that those things which people are attracted to, so that we don't drop our guard and become influenced by the material energy. Because like in the Bangladesh case, she's working in the yoga schools, and she cooks prasadam for different groups and stuff like that. So these people live in the mode of goodness. So we may see, oh boy, the mode of goodness is certainly better than living in any, a different situation. So just prepare oneself and give everybody the benefit of doubt. That's what I say. Internally, we know, but externally, we don't have to say everything every time. And also to see people with value. They're part and parcel of Krishna. They're not that material body. In as much as we're not that material body, they're also not their material bodies. And if we start identifying them as such, but not misidentifying them as such, but not identifying them in a proper way. I mean, just like the Gita says, we see a dog, a Brahmin, an elephant, a cow, whatever. We see a tiger. It's not that we go up and just slap the tiger, thinking that all living in it, some are having equal vision. You just go up and slap a tiger. You don't do that. You see the spirit soul inside the tiger, but you don't go up and slap him in the face, because he'll eat you. And so in the same way, we have our vision. We know there's a spirit soul present everywhere. They're on a particular trajectory or a particular type of level of understanding, and they're moving forward, whatever their karma allows them to do. Hopefully they're moving forward, and slowly but surely give them as much as they can handle. But don't see someone as lesser than spirit soul.
Thank you. Okay. This
Hare
is.
Krishna, Manu. Well, Sankirtan, friend.
This is from, I don't know who this is from. Anyway, so this says, please explain the importance of steady service in a community setting. Why is it important we come together and perform service regularly? And then please explain the importance of devotee appreciation and gratitude in Krishna consciousness.
Oh, that's a long list. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the first one is.
I guess we get.
The first one is I guess it was he or she. I don't know. You didn't say. Mentioned was doing service for the community. If we band together, we can spread Krishna consciousness to a greater extent. One person can do one thing, but if you have 4 or 5 or 10, you can divide the duties and accomplish a lot more. And so community is important. Also, association is very important. Of course, we can pick and choose, kind of like pick and choose our association, but it's always good to have someone who's not agreeing with you, because you get to see the other side of the argument to make sure you're on the right side of the argument. I don't know if you understood that. It's kind of like Mayavadi philosophy, juggling words there, but we need all types of input from all sides to make sure that we're correct in our presentation. The congregation is there. The necessity of devotee association is essential. The association of devotees is what creates faith. In other words, when you associate with the faithful, it increases our faith. Faith, we know, is the barometer of our spiritual development. If we have 100% faith in Krishna, then we're a pure devotee. Then we actually have achieved 100% dependence. Saranagati, that's full surrender, where we know that Krishna will protect us and provide us with everything. And so congregation is very important for our spiritual development. It also keeps us in a humble position. Just go to the temple and you'll find out whatever you need to know about yourself. And it's actually healthy in one sense, but in another sense, we have to be careful. And to just associate with the devotees and learn to associate with the devotees. I've been told that the Chaitanya Charitamrita is actually a what would you say, a history of how Vaishnavas should associate. So association of Vaishnava is very essential. And so to be part of a community will help sustain you. We're seeing here that when somebody, like, I know like in Alachua where Dushala, Dayan, Kasbork, on the corner there. She lives in Alachua and they have their devotee care. Houston has their devotee care. I know if somebody becomes ill here, people go and take care of them. Of course, we can't even go to the hospital now to take care of our friends in the hospital these days. But when anything happens, there's a community there, there's also protection, there's also association, because who knows what can happen at any moment. And so so that's as far as community goes. Community, we add to the community and we gain from the community. So it's a very important aspect to have some kind of seva. In other words, I remember in Los Angeles, I wasn't there, but there's a story that when Rukmini Dwarkadis were in their temple, Prabhupada recommended that the householders do not have home deities because the deities at the temple should be served. If you're living away from the temple or you can't attend the temple that often, then you have your home deity. Or in the case of LA, I think it was, you have just a very, very simple home deity worship, so that your main service can be to serve the what would you say, presiding deity of your area. And so that we give and we receive from the community. And the next part of their question was, the first part was community. Now I talk so long I can't remember what.
Oh, it was. Oh, and this is from, I think this came from the Krishna Temple of San Antonio. So that would be Bhagavanarda. Okay. Part 2 is, please explain the importance of devotee appreciation and gratitude in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. Everyone likes appreciation, although devotees say, oh no, I don't deserve it. I know I'm lower than the blade of grass. I'm like a worm in a stool and stuff like that. Devotees have all these cliches, But I become kind of like a TED educated fellow. Krishna Priya in Gainesville, one of my real cool boys, had me watch a TED one time, and then all of a sudden I get all these TEDs, So it was showing people how to appreciate being appreciated. And for years, and I think I told this to Lunga and my people in Dallas here, like for years, many, many years, I just decided that people are really suffering in the material world, and just a little bit of appreciation or acknowledgement or just any kind of recognition, like your hair looks nice, or that's a nice scarf, or, oh, thank you for this, or, or they have their name tag on, oh, that's a beautiful name. Oh I know someone with that name. They automatically kind of go up. Just any kind of recognition, even on a material level, goes up. Now what to speak on the spiritual level amongst devotees. There's a nice verse in the Nectar of Instruction. I used to know the sloka, but I don't know it anymore. It's been too long since I memorized all those verses. But one should not see a Vaishnava, pure devotee. All devotees are pure devotees. They're just like mango seeds. They're either in the seed form or they're a full-fledged tree producing fruits and flowers. And one should not see a devotee on a material any kind of material conception of life, which means if there any kind of deformity, or say there's something wrong with their complexion, or even any of the sinful activities that they had performed prior to coming to Krishna consciousness. And I was just reading in the first canto of the Bhagavatam a couple of days ago that even if somebody falls victim to material desires, that it's to be expected. If it doesn't happen, we shouldn't be surprised if someone falls victim to the senses. One should be surprised if they don't fall victim to the senses. And so the idea is that to show appreciation for devotees, but it has to be honest. We can't just artificially go around with flowery words and just flowery, oh, Prabhu, you're like the topmost Vaishnava, you're this and that. We used to do that. I remember when Peg Temple was quite a menagerie. I don't know what else to say, but so to appreciate a Vaishnava, when we appreciate the Vaishnavas, we get the credit for that Vaishnava's, association and that Vaishnava's seva, and it enhances our spiritual development. If we find fault in the Vaishnava, there's I think it's twice in the Gita that I used to know this verse too, but that if somebody commits even the most sinful type of activity, suppose if he's engaged in devotional service, he's to be considered saintly. And in the purport, Prabhupada explains that if someone doesn't see them that way, they're more sinful than the person that's committing the sin. It's more of a sin to judge somebody due to their, what would you say? What's the word? Their lackings or something like that, or maybe their little slip in Krishna consciousness or this or that. And rather than kicking them when they're down, extend the hand and help them up would be the proper approach. Rather than kick somebody when they're down, saying, "Oh, man, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that," and kicking them when they're already down, because devotees have a tendency to feel guilty for sinful life. It's okay to feel guilty. Don't want to diminish that, but not too much guilt. In other words, we have to understand that Krishna and the Guru Parampara is there, the disciplic succession is there, and they're there to protect us. And the more we surrender to them, the more we have the ability to practice Krishna consciousness. Actually, one commentary on part in the purport where Prabhupada says that one has a spiritual master, regulative principles become very easy to follow by the grace of the spiritual master. One is inspired to follow the regulative principles in the heart because they don't want to disappoint. But at the same time, we have to understand that there is dangers in this world and there can be complications. And the challenges of material energy are always there. They're always upon us. There was that one statement where Prabhupada says, I'm always praying to Krishna to protect me from Maya. You are always inviting Maya or something like that. In other words, we tempt Maya to attack us or whatever. I don't know if they attempt Maya. In other words, we engage in activities which aren't beneficial to our actions, thinking that we can get away with them. More Srila Prabhupada would say that I'm always praying to be protected from that. Even Prahlad Maharaj, when we just had Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day, and one of the prayers when Lord Nrsingadev asked him for a benediction, of course, first he says, I don't want it, I don't want anything, what am I, a businessman? I do something for you, you do something for me, and it's like some kind of business exchange. But one of the first things he prayed for was not to be attracted to material sense gratification. Not to be attracted to material sense gratification. So this is kind of like a really, again, I got my slow down sign here, but this, I always over answer. Actually, then I should under answer. No, I should, whatever I answer is, whatever I do is whatever I do. But to appreciate, at least honestly appreciate the sincere efforts, because we do know, everyone knows the story. spider and Hanuman. Hanuman was not carrying big mountains, and the spider was just flicking a little piece of sand. So whatever ability we have to perform devotional service for Lord Ramachandra, except the spider, I think it was a spider's little flicking of the sand as that person's ability to perform devotional service. So give recognition where recognition is needed. And when we show appreciation from the heart, not in an artificial way, something that's substantial. And avoid finding fault. Avoid finding fault. Guess I'll see if that was good enough.
Okay, just FYI, I have 3 questions still in the queue. So this is from Michelle Hamilton. So these 2 questions are from her. I'll ask, what do you have any advice for the future ISKCON 20 to 30 years from now?
Any advice from ISKCON? Okay, Joshua, you can answer. Any advice for ISKCON 20, 30 years from now? Yeah. One of the most important things we can do is to regularly and study Srila Prabhupada's books to understand the foundation of ISKCON. The foundation of ISKCON is literally Srila Prabhupada's teachings. There was a survey that was taken several years ago at the ILS, ISKCON Leader Sangha in Mayapur. This is all the leaders from all around the world. And they found out that only, anyway, I can't remember the exact percentages. If we could get Keshava Bharti Maharaj on here, he would know them right away, because he was one of the, what would you say, inspirations to take the survey. And a good portion of the ISKCON leaders in the ISKCON Leader Sangha Association in Mayapur hadn't read the whole Bhagavad Gita. And they're the leaders of our society. A greater proportion hadn't read the Srimad Bhagavatam yet. A greater proportion than that hadn't read the Chaitanya Charitamrita yet. And these are things that, I mean, for me, and it's just like inconceivable that you haven't read any of Srila Prabhupada's books and you're trying to lead our society. So if you want to be a leader, be a good follower. And to be a good follower means that we actually, it's essential that we read the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar Devotion, Nectar Instruction. Prabhupada gave these Ishopanishad, these basic books. And that way, as the Gita, actually, a couple of days ago, I restarted the Gita, and the first verse, Dharma Kshetra, Kudak Kshetra, where Krishna, they described that on the battlefield. So Prabhupada's first sentence is that the Gita is part of the Mahatmya Gita, the Gita Upanishad, whatever that first thing is. And then he says that one should scrutinizingly study Bhagavad Gita with the help of a spiritual master. In other words, it's not that it's a casual reading. It's scrutinizingly study Srila Prabhupada's books to understand the actual mood and actual purpose of what's going on here. So, in other words, Prabhupada says there's one place in the Gita in his purport where he says that the scriptural reading is not just meant for armchair speculators. I love that, like Prabhupada just like calls it out a lot of times. These armchair speculators, where one is just, they read it, but they just utilize it to, have some, what would you say, back and forth discussions and stuff like that, but never come into the true point. And so in order, if I were to give some advice for ISKCON in 20, 30 years from now, is stick to Srila Prabhupada's books, stick to the sadhana practices according to one's, what would you say, ashram or varna, whatever that may vary, according to one's health and condition, to follow the sadhana bhakti, follow the rules and regulations which are given, and keep ISKCON on a pure level, keep ISKCON on a preaching level. Just like I gave the verse for Nrsingadev's appearance day from the prayers from Prahlad Maharaj to Lord Nrsingadev, and he was saying, my dear Lord, there are many saintly people but they all go to the forest or the Himalayas, not to attain perfection. But as far as I'm concerned, I want to be in the inner city to help people gain God consciousness. And so we have to understand in that purport, Srila Prabhupada said the purpose of ISKCON is to spread Krishna consciousness. I think he said it 2 or 3 times in that purport to that verse. In other words, so we don't want to lose the basic principles of Krishna consciousness, studying of Srila Prabhupada's books, following a particular sadhana, and utilizing whatever is available, in time, place, and circumstance, to give Krishna consciousness out in the best way that it can be received. That's off the top of my head one thing.
Okay, the second question from the same person, Michelle. Is there such thing as spiritual over endeavor?
Spiritual over endeavor. Well, I can say that a lot of us old timers think that we spiritually over endeavored when we were young, and now we're all walking on sticks and eating special diets and this and that. And so I don't regret that. I don't know if Mother Dusha do you feel you spiritually over endeavored? Yes or no? we would really go all out. Huh?
No, I think there's a material over endeavor, but not spiritual over endeavor.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah, but a lot of times, I mean,
That's my opinion.
Well, sometimes we were sleeping 2, 3, 4 hours a night, working 12 hours a day in the parking lots and running our bodies down a little bit. So we want to. We always say I've been reading a lot of Japa books lately. Someone was just saying we have to be in it for the long haul, not the short spurt. And so we have to pace ourselves. So technically, as Dushla was saying, that we, it's hard to spiritually over endeavor, but if it's causing some health, if it's causing you to become unhealthy or affecting yourself in an adverse way, then be careful. Material over endeavor, atyahara prasthascha prajapo niyamagraha, atyahara means that endeavoring for mundane things which don't really have any value. And so, but spiritually, I don't, I know I overdid it for many years, in one sense, but the benefit was fantastic. It was actually very, very good. Although now I have a few medical problems, but I'm also coming close to 68 years old. And so actually probably started the Hare Krishna movement when he was 69, 70 years old. And so I guess I'm in my prime, I'm getting close to my prime. I would start working with him. So spiritual endeavor, actually the Gita in the 6th chapter says that one who is regular in his habits, eating, sleeping, working, and recreation, it can be steady. And so we have to take this into consideration, that we want to remain whole, and but not neglect every opportunity to engage in devotional service. And another thing I'd like to say is that we can also endeavor in different ways. Just like right now, I'm increasing my hearing and chanting to a certain level because I can't go out so much, and so it's not that you have to endeavor to the point where, say, on a physical level, or if you're physically in unbalanced, or intellectual, or whatever level, whatever type of service is functional for you. If it becomes out of balance, then we have to correct it and do some other type of service. There's unlimited types of service one can do to prevent over endeavor on a particular, just like we can over endeavor on prasadam, and then we can get a massive, so, or we can under endeavor and become so thin we become unhealthy. But I think Prabhupada explained that if you overeat, you can get diabetes, and you undereat, you'll get tuberculosis. I don't know, Jai Shri's on the call here, but she's a doctor. I definitely heard, I actually read or heard that, Robert said that. I think I read it in the books. That, you know, if you overeat or if you undereat, so that's a type of endeavor.
All right, we have one last question that's been given to me. This is also from Deborah. She says, we know that we only have a limited time in this material world. What is the most important activity that we might engage in order to better serve God?
Yeah. Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about Krishna. Engaging in the devotional service of Krishna. And there's, of course, the Prahlad. We just had that story. Prahlad Maharaj, he instructed his father in the 9 processes of devotional service. Father got a little upset. He was quite the demon. When he told his father he should engage in these 9 processes of devotional service to Vishnu, the enemy, his arch enemy. And so, the main thing that we can do, and in fact, this was I'm reading the first canto. I'm actually reading 1 chapter of verses in the 10th canto, and I'm starting over the Bhagavatam in the first canto. And the sages in Naimisharanya, they said, what is the best thing for us to do now? They were addressing Sutta Goswami. And the same question was asked to Sukadev Goswami, who said, what King Parikshit asked him, he said, because King Parikshit had 7 days to live, and he said, for one who's about to die, what is the best thing for one to do? And it was to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And so any type of hearing, be it Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, hearing scripture, any type of engagement in devotional service one can do, avoiding what's a heavy word is illicit, sinful, what would you say, those types of activities which deter our consciousness from absorbing ourselves in Krishna consciousness should be avoided. That would help us. So these basic things are there. And for myself, I like to just stick with the basics because I like the foundation to be very, very strong, very, very strong. I don't need like a lofty loft. You could say, a lofty balcony and all these kind of fancy things on the top with the foundation not steady. I tend to base my life on the building blocks of Krishna consciousness. Like my main book of reading is Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and it seems to keep my intelligence and my ability to explain Krishna consciousness or to answer my internal questions of Krishna consciousness, which are doubts, because that's the whole Gita. The whole Gita is Arjuna's doubts about fighting the battle. It's not Arjuna's a pure devotee. Of course, Krishna put a little covering over him so he would ask questions for the Gita, so that all humanity could value from that. But our doubts, many of us have doubts in the heart, and so the hearing of the scripture is so essential. So hearing and chanting and avoiding sinful activities is the best thing. Nitai Gaurasundar, Hare Krishna.
Hey, Krishna Raj,
Manju, Hare Krishna.
I put the video.
You better turn your microphone off, Manju. You'll be fighting with your mom and we'll hear you.
No, Raj, it's Mother's Day. No fighting today.
Oh, no fighting on Mother's Day. Yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I think I already sent out a couple dozen, not a dozen, I sent out so many today. Happy Mother's Day. Anything else? No.
Well, that's all the ones that were
Wait a second.
given to me.
I don't have Durga's email address. Happy Mother's Day, Durga. You're not on. I don't have your email address. I should have sent you a text. Hare Krishna. I think I got. Did I get Dave? Well, now I got to mark this down. I don't think I have Devika's email address either. Okay, I got some things to do.
So that's all the questions that were sent to me or typed. Oh, here we go. We got another one from Brajabhumi. On that note, what is the duty of a mother in Krishna consciousness, or a grandmother? I guess in Krishna consciousness too, right?
What's the duty of a mother or grandmother? Become as Krishna conscious as you can so you can tolerate your kids and your grandkids. Children, we tend to have to tolerate them after a while. I think most householders will agree that children are a blessing, actually. And so the most important thing for a mother, Guru Nashishat, whatever that verse from the 5th canto, don't become a guru, don't become a father, don't become a mother, don't become a teacher, unless you can give liberation to your dependents. And so the idea for anyone who is a mother or a father or teacher or anything like that, the main thing is to become so spiritually potent that you can deliver one's dependents. Be they disciples, be they children, be they, friends or followers of whatever type they may be. Most important thing is to become Krishna conscious. When you're on the air, I said this example, I got this from Rtadhvaja, actually, I'm going to credit what credit's due. That when you're on the airplane and when they're given the announcement, they'll say, in case of a sudden loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop down. Please place the mask on you, and then they demonstrate. Put your mask on first before helping others. And so we have to put our own mask on first before we can help others. So make sure we got our mask on. That's our steadiness in Krishna consciousness. And when we're steadying, oh, there's Mary, Hare Krishna. Then George's mom, Hare Krishna, happy Mother's Day. And in other words, we put our mat, and so if we can become Krishna conscious, then we can help our children become Krishna conscious. And they'll be the first ones to call out if we're hypocrites, they'll be the first ones to notice it, I guarantee. Maybe not the first ones, but close to the first. So just become a very good devotee. That's the best thing.
There's a same continuation of the question. Does the duty of a mother ever end in order to just concentrate on her mother's Krishna consciousness?
So
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. It ends when we leave this body and take on another one and have more kids, and then we have to take it up again, and then we leave that body and take up another one, and hopefully we get back to the spiritual world and we have permanent family where there's no difficulties. I don't know, most mothers never stop worrying. That's one of the, I guess, services of a mother. Don't stop worrying.
Here's another one from Javier.
If you actually stop worrying, it means you stop caring. And if you stop caring, you're not human. You're not acting on a spiritual or material platform.
Okay, here's another one from Javier. Can a relationship between a devotee and non-devotee still be successful?
Sure. Yeah, why not? Yeah. It can be successful, but what does success mean? Success on an individual basis means that we that we remember Krishna at the time of death. That's what success means for us. What does success mean in a relationship on a material with a materialist? Is that somehow or another, the materialistic person has maybe some appreciation for us. If they even have some appreciation, just like one of my high school friends just passed away, and I don't have any idea why, but he was extremely attached to me. And I mean, we graduated together, so he'd always go to the class reunions, and everyone would ask where I was. They wouldn't even say hi to him. They would just ask, where's the Swami, or whatever name he would use, and he'd have to sit there and preach about Krishna all night long. And so he used to threaten me that I'd have to come to the class reunions because he's tired of preaching Krishna consciousness every 10 years, 5 years at the at the what do they call those things, reunions, whatever it is. And so he passed away recently, and I just personally know that because he appreciated what I did in my what. At first, he wanted to come down to Gainesville. I left Winnipeg and went to Gainesville. He was going to come down there and kidnap me. Actually, went to my parents' house, talked to my dad, tried to convince my dad to come down and get me. Somehow or another, my father and sister said, "Forget it." And then when I finally went to visit home after about 8 years, we sat and talked, and he said, this was your destiny. This was literally your destiny to be like that. This was your destiny." And he always appreciated what I did, where I went, and all the things I did. And whenever he had questions about the nature of God, he used to always ask me. One time he had like this, he woke up and he felt the presence of God. So he calls me up and he says, what does God look like? And I said, it looks like you or I. It's just like the Bible says we're made in the image of God. And he says, okay, that makes sense. So all the spiritual questions came my way. And so in that sense, the material relationship was spiritualized to a certain degree, not 100%. I mean, he didn't practice any regulated principles at all. And but he got some benefit. He got some benefit. He visited the Gainesville Temple, visited New Raman Reiki, appreciated all the artwork on the walls. Couldn't understand why he had to take off his boots, but we worked that out. So the benefit is of the relationship for you is that you become a good devotee, so that he'll see that this process of you become a good person by becoming a good person by becoming a good devotee. If you read the 13th chapter, verse 8 through 12, all these characteristics are given. And we should actually, humility, pride, non-violence, all these things are given, and we should acquire these qualifications. And when people see these qualifications, then they'll appreciate the activity or the nature of the devotee, and just that appreciation. Fourth canto of the Bhagavatam describes that if someone sees someone engaging in devotional service or hears of someone engaging in devotional service and appreciates that devotional service, that person who appreciates it gets the same value as the person who's performing the devotional service. I know it's in the fourth canto, I just can't remember which section. In the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam. So we used to, when I guess my Adushla's gone now, but her and her husband and me used to do Sankirtan at the Florida Welcome Center, and they had all these people working inside that. Oh boy, they didn't like us, but they watched a lot of devotional service. They got a lot of purification. Yeah, a lot of purification. So become a good devotee. Become a very, very good devotee, and actually Krishna will bless your friends and your relationships. But be very careful. Be very careful so that you remain aloof from the association. It doesn't become a temptation for you to engage in sinful activities.
I have a question, Maharaj. So,
Sure.
in regards to sharing Krishna consciousness with youth, particularly people that aren't practicing Krishna consciousness, like in colleges and universities, what are some of the, it's kind of a two-part question. I feel like there's a major obvious change in, the amount of distractions that are out there nowadays, compared to over the past 30 or 40 years with all this technology and whatnot. So it feels like there has to be a proper balance with how we utilize these things to attract people without getting sucked in. And also it seems like we have to have a larger degree of detachment now because of these distractions, not expecting the youth to just come in and just drop everything and fully renounced at this day and age. So I was wanting to kind of get your opinion, I guess, on ways that we can attract college students, and then some of the differences that you see in this generation as opposed to yours when it comes to spirituality, because it also seems like there's just tons of options now.
Yeah, I think, one thing is when I was in college, when I became a vegetarian, and my mom wanted me to go to a psychiatrist. Nitai Gaur is here somewhere, I think. He's a psychiatrist. And about 10, no, more than that. No, almost 20 years ago, I was on an airplane flying from Hawaii to Tokyo. And this flight attendant came by and said, I have a special meal for you, a fruit plate. And I said, yeah. I don't take, I'm vegetarian, I just need a fruit plate. And the person next to me said, oh man, I wish I could be a vegetarian. Rather than telling me I needed to go to a psychiatrist like my mother did, like in 97, 75. And so these kind of things, even like Krishna lunch in Gainesville, we actually went all vegan at one point because about 25, 30% of the kids, because we had vegan or non-vegan. Non-vegan meant there was just sour cream and something or whatever. It wasn't like anything special. And like 30% of the kids wanted vegan. They were all like 30% of our people were vegans. And so there's that aspect. In other words, there's more of an openness. There's more of an openness to spirituality in spirituality in that sense. And so, and it's not so odd for them. And my experience with the young people is like, of course, we just took a walk today. Oh yeah, all three of us are online, and we were walking down this path, taking a japa walk this morning. We saw three young kids. They're probably 12, 13, 14 on their bicycles, just parked along the side, and all three of them were on their telephones. They weren't talking to each other. They're just talking to somebody else. Maybe they're texting each other. I don't know. And so like you said, we want to utilize that technology, but we don't want to get caught in the trap. We utilize that. In other words, right now we're using Zoom. So we use Zoom for this. Facebook, and we can use Facebook, but we don't want to get in, and we can type in something. I haven't figured out how to use it. I'm waiting maybe to get some tutoring from somebody somehow or another to figure out how to use it. I'm just accepting friends again. I just figured, well, what the heck, now I'm getting notes from other people from 4th, 5th, 6th parties down the line wanting me to like something, which is, I ain't gonna get involved in that and use it on my side. So, I mean, there's always a way. One of the things that I noticed is that, of course, when in the beginning, even before I joined, there were like, what did we call those things, Rob? Like hippie houses? What did they call those things? Everybody lived together.
Like a commune?
Like a commune, like a hippie commune. There's so many places, like even like my house. I mean, I'd wake up, I didn't even know who was there anymore. It was just like ridiculous. And so to just move into a Hare Krishna temple wasn't much different than half my friends were doing in college and stuff. And so nowadays people don't do that. So that's a little different. So we have, just like in Gainesville, we started the Bhakti Academy. And the Bhakti Academy is where you come and you live at Krishna House, and there's different options. You pay, and you don't do much service, but you attend the whole spiritual program morning and evening. Or you pay less and do half service, or you don't pay anything and just do service all day long. And every year, well, now it's COVID, so something happened. I mean, half the people had to go. But every year since we started that, in the beginning it was just a few, but right away there were more kids from the university applying and Gurukulis applying than we had space in the building. I mean, I think we have like 44 rooms or something like that, 44 room for 40 to 45 people. And it was full all the time for kids wanting to come in and have that experience. And the rule was you just spend one semester. or you spend 1 year of college and you have the Hare Krishna experience. So this was one of the things that Prabhupada told us to do, not me personally, but in letters. Number one was on college campuses, don't present it just as a set of rules and regulations. He didn't want it to just Krishna consciousness just to be established as a set of rules and regulations. He actually said to have things like Krishna House, where you have a dormitory and the kids get together in the mornings, they get together in the evenings, and they take prasadam. They have prasadam in the morning and evening, and they have some spiritual direction. And then during the day, they go to school. He says you have like a dorm something. I don't remember what word it was used. And then he says you buy land outside the city, and then you cultivate the land and you teach them how to live out self-sufficiently. So Gainesville actually has that. Of course, the self-sufficiency part of Alachua is still under development, but eventually, hopefully, we can get to the point where kids. I mean, our Mother Akuti has a wonderful program going on there. Dinabandhu Prabhu's wife, and she's got the permaculture and eco village and all these kind of things going. And I'm kind of going back and forth from generation to generation here. Sorry about that. I went back to the 60s, up to the 90s, and 2000s. But if you know how to use Facebook, use it. But just don't use it for your sense gratification. If you know how to utilize modern things, then utilize them, because utility is the principle. Utility is the principal part. Books are the basis, purity is the force, utility is the principle, and books are the basis. Again, that books are the basis. That goes back to that question: what do we do for the next 20 or 30 years? We have to understand what the basis of Krishna consciousness is, and that's Srila Prabhupada's books, and the in-depth scrutinizingly studying these books, getting a deep understanding. Because Prabhupada's right there speaking to us every single day in those books. And so I think my understanding would be like yourself, you have an ability to communicate with people. I know a lot of you do that there. And as Prabhupada did, trial and error. Prabhupada did a lot of trial and error. Some people say it was just like, a direct vision, but it was trial and error. He tried this thing, tried that thing, went from place to place. But I just hope you don't, as you say, not to get trapped. Don't get trapped in the modern social media, where you end up wasting a lot of time with pajapa. It's a form of pajapa. Social media is just like the modern form of pajapa. Achaharas prajapo niyamagraha. Talking unnecessary.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Anything else?
Is this George thanking you? That's all. My phone might die soon. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. That's from George.
What did he say?
He just said his phone may die soon. He just says thank you.
So many.
His phone may die soon.
Oh, his phone may
Yeah,
die.
I just saw that there was a comment, and it's just George
Okay.
saying that. Yeah.
And not only his phone, but everything will die soon, unfortunately. Sorry to bring down putting a dark note into the uplifting discussion. My computer could die.
Maharaj, I like the point you just made about Prabhupada having trial and error. A lot of times we don't hear that. A lot of times we just think, like, I can speak for myself. I wasn't around in that time period. We kind of think that there was just this majestical thing that happened and everything was just booming and there was no real difficulties. Although when we do read in Prabhupada's Leelamrita, we see, but I've never really heard that before, trial and error. So what it does is kind of like I tend to put more pressure on myself when I do have those errors, not realizing that our whole movement was based upon learning from error. So yeah. I really appreciated that point that you shared about
the karma pala. We have the right to perform our activity, but the fruits of the activity are up to Krishna. And I'll just give an example, which is in India. When they first went to India, the devotees went on Harinam. And you remember those places like in Gujarat or wherever it was, and people were garlanding them and just inviting them, and thousands of people coming out in the street and watching the Harinam. But after a while, people took it cheaply and just started throwing little coins and stuff at the devotees. And Prabhupada saw it, and he said, "Stop the Harinam, because it's making people see us as cheap." And he started the life membership program, where they went to all the business people and educated people and things like that, and sold them to get them. And the purpose of the life membership program was they would give a donation, but they would get books. So he found it. He just stopped the hiring. I mean, not 100% stopped it, but he cut that and put it into the life member program, because he said they're taking us cheaply. That's a huge change. It's a huge come in one way, and then all of a sudden just switch it, because he saw he wasn't getting the fruit that he was desiring from the tree. All of a sudden I lost. Well, there you go. You see, that's a pretty huge change, Bhagavan. I mean, there's many, and even probably would say that in America, he kind of left it up to the Americans. He says, "You know your country better than I." But in India, he would, even though Tamal Krishna Maharaj was the GBC, probably was the GBC, because he knew what to do in India. We had no idea what to do in India. I mean, most people went to India. What they wanted to do was just figure out what's the easiest way to get back out of India, because they became so sick and run down by the environment.
Thank you.
No.
Do we have any other questions from anybody? You can feel free to post or.
Yeah, I don't have any at this point, unless somebody wants to type in one on the chat.
They can ask if it's easier.
Yeah, that too.
Somebody's name is Nexus. That must be like a Nexus 6P. That must be like a 2020 name.
No.
Okay. If that's it, that's it. That's okay.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your time, and thank you for sharing with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Nice to see you all. Nice to see you all. Hare Krishna. You can see you all over. Yeah, Kurt and everybody. Can't see who's sitting next to Kurt. Oh, you got to turn your microphone. Huh. I can barely see that far. Everybody's so tiny. Oh, okay. That's okay. That's okay. I got it.
Is that it?
I see Roger Bowman.
Okay, I'm Lee's mother.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm Lee's mother.
Okay. Hi, Lee's mom. Happy Mother's Day,
Lori,
Lee's mom.
thank you. My name is
What happened to
Lori.
the video?
I lost it.
Mom.
There it.
There it is. Okay.
Okay. Thank you all. They call it a day. I got somebody coming at I got someone coming at 2:30, so I got 12 minutes.
All right. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.